This is about the people of Hyderabad state who fought a despotic regime that wanted to create an Islamic state right in the heart of Bharat. Do you know when India got its independence? Well, everybody would answer 15th August 1947. But if I asked you, when did the state of Hyderabad get its independence? Except for a few people living in the state of Telangana today, or many citizens who will not get a date or a year right who live outside the state. But it was almost after 13 months after Nehru unfurled the flag on 15th August 1947 and claimed a tryst with destiny that Hyderabad became independent. That was 17 September 1948. All good, but good that three princely states at that time were trying to find their own destiny: Kashmir, Junagadh, and Hyderabad. Well, Kashmir's Raja Hari Singh was ruling a Muslim majority state and even was not sure which way to go, but he had decided to accede to India. The Raja of Junagadh was very clear. He wanted to merge with Pakistan, and that was his way of looking at it. But the Nizam of Hyderabad was a different cup of tea, or rather, let's say, biryani. When India got rid of the Britishers in August 1947, to be exact, 15th August 1947, the seventh Nizam, or the Asaf Jahi dynasty, Mir Usman Ali Khan, was ruling the princely state of Hyderabad. And it was the biggest princely state at that point in time in the country, sitting right in the heart of Bharat. Nizam was not ready to go which way to go, unlike Kashmir. Here was a Muslim king who was ruling a state that had a Hindu majority population. And that was a big problem for him. The Nizam wanted to have an umbilical cord with Pakistan because he was very friendly with Jinnah. But then Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who initially promised to help out the Nizam, backed out as he had enough problems of his own in Pakistan. So what did the Nizam do? The Nizam took an alternative route. He took advantage of the fact that the Indian government was busy battling the flames in Jammu and Kashmir, to be precise, in Kashmir, and was preoccupied with that. So here was a chance for him to declare independence. But then the Indian government would have none of it. The Nizam initially approached the British government with a kind of an offer, a request to take on the status of a state of independent state within the constitutional monarchy of the Commonwealth. Well, that is not to be done because the Commonwealth of Nations was a different thing altogether, and Nizam could not have his way there. The request was, however, rejected by the last Viceroy of India, Lord Mountbatten. Then, what did the Nizam do? So Nizam had now two options. One, merge with India, and the second, stay independent. He wanted to be independent, so he decided to take a midway. He decided to take some time before taking the final call. So he signed what is called a standstill agreement, and it means that stand still. Within the newly independent Indian government. That was an agreement which many states wanted to sign initially, but three states signed it: Raja Hari Singh of Kashmir, the Junagadh Maharaja, and the Nizam of Hyderabad. On 29th November 1947, Hyderabad signed a standstill agreement with the Dominion of India, continuing all previous arrangements except for the stationing of the Indian troops in the other part of Hyderabad, which is Sikandrabad, and also the state of Hyderabad. This agreement was valid for 1 year until November 28, 1948. The agreement was intended to maintain the status quo between the two parties, that is, the Government of India and the Asaf Jahi dynasty, until a solution could be found. The agreement included the exchange of agents between the state of Hyderabad and Indian Dominion. And Indian government agreed to the terms and conditions to give up the paramountcy functions of the state of Hyderabad. Technically, while India would handle all the external affairs and of course of Hyderabad state, which actually didn't have much of at that point in time, the Nizam would get more space to run his own kingdom. But in reality, the Nizam had no control over his state or what was happening in his state. That was Hyderabad's biggest problem. Hyderabad, as you know, was one of the most populous and richest states of India at that point in time. It had 17 districts in now what is called Telangana, Aurangabad, Latur, Usmanabad, what is now Maharashtra, and Gulbarga, Bidar, and that side what is called Hyderabad, Karnataka, now in Karnataka. The Nizam had an army that was next to nothing. He had a resurgent population of Hindus who wanted to merge with India, and they were pretty clear about it. The Nizam was caught in a weak position, as his army numbered only about something like 24,000 men, most of whom, about except for 6,000, were not even trained and had very poor arms. The Nizam did try getting arms from Britain, but it didn't work out. So what did he do? He got people, including Arabs, the Rohingyas, and North Indian Muslims, and even Pathans to come down to Hyderabad and settle down. To bolster his army, the Nizam created a ragtag militia called the Razakars, which ironically meant volunteers. But it turned out to be a loose cannon, whose singular objective was to subjugate the Hindus and convert and kill the Hindus. And that proved to be Nizam's biggest undoing. Led by a maverick, diabolic Kazim Rizvi, the Razakars let loose a train of terror from the moment the Nizam actually signed the standstill agreement, because they knew they had a space of 1 year to prove whatever they wanted to do. Hundreds of atrocities were committed by the Razakars, which is chronicled in various places today. And today's situation, it would qualify as a war crime. But it was not a war, as only one side was armed and the other side were the Hindus, who had nothing but the urge to fight and the determination to get rid of the Nizam and his dynasty. From the Arya Samaj of Hyderabad to the Andhra Mahasabha, which straddled what is now Andhra Pradesh and bit of Telangana, and the double-faced communist, everyone jumped in. Then there were tribal leaders, Komram Bhim and others, and the regional chieftains, all of whom fought the Razakars. There are hundreds of people who did it, who fought the Razakars. We can't name them in a program like this because of the short timing that we have. Let's take the Arya Samaj, which had been demanding greater access to power for the Hindu majority in Hyderabad since the late 1930s. So long before India became independent, the Arya Samaj was pretty active in Hyderabad. It was curbed by the Nizam in 1938. The Hyderabad State Congress joined forces with the Arya Samaj and as well as the Hindu Mahasabha to ensure that the statehood would be achieved and Hyderabad would become independent. According to an account by Muhammad Haidar, a civil servant those days in the Osmanabad district of Hyderabad state, from the beginning of 1948, the Razakars had extended their activities from the Hyderabad city far into the towns and rural areas, murdering people, Hindus wherever they could, abducting women, pillaging the villages of their wealth, and of course setting fire to the fields and looting the non-Muslim property in a widespread reign of terror across the state of Hyderabad. Many women became victims of rape and molestation and kidnapping by the Razakars. There are hundreds of stories that can be told. Thousands went to jail and braved the cruelties perpetuated by the Razakars. But then the Nizam could do nothing to stop it because his administration itself was oppressive. Due to the activities of the Razakars, thousands of Hindus had to flee their homes from the state of Hyderabad and take refuge and shelter in the various other camps in the neighboring states. But the sad fact was that despite the horrors happening in Hyderabad state, the government of India, particularly Jawaharlal Nehru, was just not bothered. He was on a secular trip, and that is what his trip was. But it was Sardar Patel who was clear that the Nizam had to go. But he was unwell, and Nehru, of course, was vacillating, not knowing what to do with the Nizam. He gave Nizam a long rope to play with, and predictably, he guessed that Nizam would hang himself with it. The Nizam made unsuccessful attempts to seek the intervention of the United Nations. So even he went there too. He didn't leave anything to chance. The Nizam also made an attempt to negotiate with the Portuguese because he wanted a sea route to get the weapons to Hyderabad. So he thought Goa would be a right route. So he negotiated with the Portuguese, who refused. And of course, he could not buy arms from abroad in a big way because of that. The Nizam tried his best to get Pakistan involved by gifting 20 crore rupees, which is a big amount those days, to help him defend Hyderabad. But the death of Jinnah dashed his hopes. Finally, once back at the helm, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel lost his patience with the Nizam and ordered the Indian army to march into the Hyderabad state. Of course, the date was very crucial. 13th of September, 1948, the operation began. To keep it diplomatic, the military operation was codenamed as Operation Polo, but was called the police action. It's supposed to end at the Polo grounds in Secunderabad. Britain encouraged India to resolve the issue without the use of force, but refused to Nizam's request to help. On receiving directions from the government of India to annex and seize Hyderabad, the Indian army came up with what was called the Goddard Plan, which was laid out by Lieutenant General E.R. Goddard, a Britisher then, the Commander-in-Chief of the Southern Command of the Indian Army. The Goddard Plan involved a lot of activities. It envisaged two main thrusts, from Bezawada in east to Solapur in the west, while smaller units would pin down the Hyderabad army along the way from other places, including what is called Madras then. The overall command was placed in the hands of Lieutenant General Rajendra Singh Ji, after whom the RSI Institute is named in Bolaram. The Indian forces were led by Major General Jayantanath Chowdhury, the general officer commanding of the 1 Armoured Division, and was composed of 4 task forces. The strike force comprised a mix of fast-moving infantry, cavalry, and light artillery. The smash force consisted of predominantly armoured units and artillery. In fact, the other force was a kill force, which composed of the infantry and the engineering units, and the Veer force, which comprised of infantry, anti-tank, and engineering units. Actually, the Indian army didn't need all this because the Nizam's army was just next to nothing. The attack from Solapur was led by Major General Jayantanath Chowdhury, whom I discussed before, while the attack from Bezawada was led by Major General Ajit Rudra. The forces comprised of the Gurkha Rifles, who were fresh from the Second World War, and one of the squadron of the 17th Pune Horse, and the troops from the 19th Field Battery, along with engineering and auxiliary units. In addition, 4 infantry battalions were to neutralize and protect the lines of communication. 2 squadrons of the Hawker Tempest aircraft were prepared and kept ready for air support from the Pune Air Base, and they were required later for bombing. On 16 September, faced with an imminent defeat, Nizam, Sir Mir Usman Ali Khan, summoned his Prime Minister, Mir Liaq Ali, and asked him to resign. The same morning, he resigned. The resignation was delivered along with the resignations of the entire cabinet. So Liaq Ali was gone, so was his cabinet. On the noon of 17 September, a messenger brought a personal note from the Nizam to the Agent General to Hyderabad, K.M. Munshi, summoning him to the Nizam's office. At the meeting, Nizam stated in a very defeatist way, "The vultures have resigned. I don't know what to do." Munshiji advised him to secure the safety of the citizens of Hyderabad by issuing appropriate orders to the Commander-in-Chief of the Hyderabad State Army, Major General L. Edrus, who then decided that everything had to be done immediately. The Nizam of Hyderabad announced a ceasefire on 17 September. On September 18th, Major General Chowdhury entered the Hyderabad city from the Secunderabad side from Bolaram with his forces, and Major General L. Edrus, who was actually an Arab commander, the chief of the Hyderabad state forces, surrendered to him at the parade grounds in Secunderabad. Major General Chowdhury was later appointed the military governor of Hyderabad by the Government of India. On 17 September 1948, at noon, Hyderabad ceased to exist as a princely state after a war that lasted all of 109 hours. It would have gone on for longer had India not been able to stymie the former kingdom's attempts to procure weapons for a large, protracted conflict. Hyderabad became a part of India after more than a year of the latter's existence, and the independent nation. With it went out the Nizam, Mir Usman Ali Khan. His dream of ruling the 212,000 square kilometer kingdom of an independent country was gone. Even today, the Indian National Congress refuses to celebrate the 17th of September as a Hyderabad Liberation Day for very obvious reasons. The party feels that its core voter base, the Muslims, will be upset if the celebration is held. And the less said about the Majlis-e-Ittihad al-Muslimin. They're calling it the liberation of Hyderabad as an integration. The government of India last year announced that the 17th of September will now onwards be officially observed as the Hyderabad Liberation Day. Union Minister Amit Shah announced that, and of course, the government of India issued a gazette that to celebrate Hyderabad Liberation Day on 17th of September every year, in honor of the martyrs of the Hyderabad liberation movement. Imagine what would have happened if Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel did not take a decision and would not have ordered the Indian army to march into Hyderabad. We would have had a Pakistan sitting right in the middle of Bharat. Imagine that. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind.